So the fact of the matter is that our physical health, it's just the starting point, and I believe it's the foundation so that we can endure in our unique purpose and calling for the long run and with excellence.
Excited to have Brooke Peterson here with me live. This is actually the first time I'm meeting her in person, and I'm so excited to have her and hear a little bit more about her story. So, Brooke, I would love for you to tell me a little bit about your backstory and how you came to writing the book Food Freedom.
Yes, great question. Food Freedom was really birthed about 3.5 years ago. My daughter was 3 months old when I started writing this book, and the preface to leading up to this was I've always loved health and fitness. It's always been a strength of mine, but I think maybe you can relate. Sometimes our strength becomes our weakness if we put too much emphasis on it. And so my story is struggling with disordered thinking for 10 years that just happened to manifest in an eating disorder. And so when my daughter was 3 months old, my life looked great on the outside. I married the man of my dreams. I had this beautiful, healthy 3-month-old daughter. I was eating well and exercising. I was succeeding in a sales career. And so everything looked good on the outside, and no one knew the turmoil that I was dealing with on the inside, struggling with a secret addiction. And I remember thinking, okay, when my daughter is born, I'm just gonna kick this. Her delivery into the world is gonna be my deliverance day from this disordered eating. Because although things looked good on the outside, I was struggling so much on the inside. At 3 months old, I remember relapsing for the first time after she was born. And that was a moment for me of feeling the conviction for the first time in that decade that this was actually wrong. It wasn't just hurting me and my body, but it was hurting the people that I loved most, my husband, my daughter. And so it was in a moment that I finally felt like this was wrong, and I didn't want to leave this legacy for her. And so that was the moment where I needed and wanted a change, and I was desperate no matter what the cost and how foolish I looked. And so long story short, I talk about it extensively in the book, as you know. I shared this news with my husband, which was super hard. A lot of us think that I thought when I got married, just like when I had my daughter, you know, all my problems would go away. Well, that didn't really happen. In fact, they were basically magnified. And so after this moment of conviction, I shared this with my husband. Thankfully, he's an amazing man, and he embraced me with open arms, and he suggested that we get help from some close mentors. But doing that, shedding light on a secret place that I had hidden and was keeping to myself, brought me freedom. And in a moment, surrounded by a community that was trustworthy and safe, we prayed. I surrendered this little area of my life that I had been holding onto so closely and so tightly, and it was a moment where I was set free. And all of a sudden, this decade of disordered thinking that just happened to manifest in disordered eating, it was gone. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more, what caused you to write the book?
Yes. So after that moment, I knew that I was free. And so from that moment on to now, I've never had a temptation, never had a struggle, like literally it was gone. And so all of a sudden I had this revelation that in that moment, my pain turned into a platform. Now I had an authority, I'd overcome a situation. And so the natural response, I think, for a lot of us when we experience a victory in any area of our life, we want to help other people. And so I knew that if I wrote a book sharing about the nitty-gritty of that experience of being delivered and overcoming this disordered eating, I could help, whether it was just one person, it'd be worth it to me. But then also to write the really practical, like, how do I walk this out? Because after that experience the next morning, I still had to wake up and eat food. I still would wake up and go to the gym, and so how do I actually carry this lifestyle of freedom and health and wellness in such a way that would not lead me to bondage, but would help me experience vibrant health? And I wanted to do that for as many other women as I possibly could.
Yeah, and that's what I love so much about reading your book. I can feel through the book that you care about me. So, like the Renegade Life, we strive to live our lives differently than what the world says. Your book, there's 4 pillars. Can you explain to us how that's different than what the world generally says about diets? And
Yes. I'd say what the world generally says about diet is like everyone wants the quick protocol. So I've had children. I understand wanting to lose the weight really quickly. But the problem with that model of a quick diet or a quick workout boot camp is that when we get the results, they're not lasting because we're going to go back into our old habits, and we're doing it for the wrong reasons. So we like the knowledge piece. Everyone likes to be told what to do. Like, how do I change my body? How do I feel good fast? And that's good, that's important, that's part of the puzzle, but everyone forgets about this wisdom piece. And wisdom means knowledge applied. And so you can eat all the right foods, but if you're not applying it to the season of life you're in, the margin you have in your time to prep food, and that's where wisdom comes into play, because wisdom helps us to apply the knowledge so that when we get the result, it's lasting and we're doing it in such a way that actually brings peace to us. The first pillar is sleep. And this is really counterintuitive again, because everyone is so quick to like do something, beat your body to a pulp, but it doesn't work. We need to start in a place of rest. You probably don't have very constructive conversations with your 2 young boys or your husband when you're tired, right?
no, not at all.
And we don't make the best food decisions when we're tired. And I think this is such a cool way too that our creator designed us to start from a place of rest. And so I think this posture of rest physically, but then also mentally and spiritually, sets us up to do things in a way that's right, and it also endures because we're not just quick going with the plan, like we're actually taking into consideration, like I need to honor my body, start from a place of rest and identity, and then we can go into the plan. The second pillar is thinking. Again, so counterintuitive because everyone wants the diet plan and the fitness plan, but the power of our thoughts and having a renewed mind literally sets us up to reach our health goals. And I talk about in the book how our brain and our thoughts that we're choosing to think literally affect our hormones. Our bodies have 2-way modes of operation. It's rest and digest, or it's fight or flight. And if you're the majority of women who come to me seeking weight loss, if we're always in this fight or flight mode because it's stemming from poor thought patterns about who we are and our potential and stress and overwhelm, then our body physically is going to be in this fight or flight mode, and it's not going to be able to release the extra weight, absorb the good nutrients that you're putting in. And so the power of renewing our mind isn't just like woo-woo and a nice word for meditation. It literally affects our physiology. Through the book, in that thinking pillar, we talk about how to identify those roots that lead to the toxic thinking, that lead to the results in our body that aren't serving us. So that's a key component for freedom and achieving the health goals that we have. The third pillar is eating. So we have to talk about eating at some point, right? When we're talking about health and wellness, people know what to do. Like, it's not hard. You eat food that is close to its natural state, unprocessed as possible, healthy proteins, vegetables, fruit, good fats. Like, people know that intuitively. And so I think through my program and this whole eating to live concept, we go back to the basics. And in the book too, as you're learning, we talk about the Mighty Four to keep it really simple. So you can teach this to your kids. And when you're making dinners for your family, it's kind of an easy guideline to start to have the habit of eating food that's nourishing for your body. But the Mighty Four is protein and fat and carbohydrates and fiber. When we eat those in a balanced way, our body's able to absorb those nutrients. It gives us the nourishment we need. We stay full longer. The last point I'll say with the eating to live that I think is different than other plans is, yes, we get down to the basics of real whole foods, But then there's this other component of finding out the real whole foods that work for your body. When we start from a place of rest, when our mind is renewed and we're in this place of rest and digest, we can actually start to tune into our bodies. When we eat something that doesn't feel great, we can say, okay, I'm not on a diet or like restricting myself from that. This food just doesn't serve me, at least in this season. So I'm gonna go without this food and I'm gonna choose something else.
So what you're saying about food, for me, I'm 4 weeks into this, and at first it seemed really overwhelming. When I go to make a meal, I can see, oh, I need my protein, these things, and I know it's gonna take more time, but it is becoming second nature, and it's really refreshing.
That's so good to hear. So pillar number 4 is movement. Again, we can't talk about diet and what we're putting in our bodies without talking about physical exercise, right? But again, this is where it's different than the typical boot camp style or Pinterest. How about this? Do you ever see on Pinterest like the girl with the shredded abs and she's like 3 ab moves to get these abs in 10 days, right?
Yeah.
And first of all, that's not real. That's not realistic. It doesn't work like that. So the movement is important because we were designed to move. Like, think about it. 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, like, people moved their bodies to find food, to take care of a house. And today we're just a lot more sedentary because of the, wonderful technology we have. However, our bodies still need to move. It's where we process, it's where we get creative, and it's where our bodies can get stronger. And so again, for exercise, we want to find a way of movement where you can do it consistently and it's something you enjoy. So you might be the type of person who loves yoga and walking and swimming. I'm the kind of person who I enjoy beating my body to a pulp. But I think a lot of people get tripped up because they see the Pinterest quote of the 3 ab moves to get shredded abs, but they might not want to do that. And so it's all about consistently. In the book, I talk about the exercise pyramid. And so just some things we can do on a weekly basis, moving your body, and I talk about, having a step counter and getting 10,000 steps in a day, just thinking about how can I move my body more and do it consistently. And then finding some sort of strength training that you enjoy, because building strength, especially for women, is really important as we age. But having that strength component is important along with regular movement. But this could look like 100 different things based on who you are. And
yeah, I love that you don't put everyone in the same little box. Like, we all can get the same results, but we can get it differently.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing those 4 pillars. Your book is just filled with so much knowledge. So tell me, what is the part of food freedom that you love the most about your message?
Okay, this is where I get very fired up. My why behind health and wellness is this. I want women and families, for that matter, to be totally well, to actually persevere in the calling that's been placed on their life, their unique calling. Because if we think about ourselves in 30 years or 40 years, that's a crazy thought. And how are we gonna be in 40 years, in 30 years? How are we gonna feel physically? What's your energy gonna be like? Are we going to be able to move around a lot? Are we going to be on a lot of medications? I believe that if we're not well, then how are we supposed to pursue our unique giftings and callings? We're not going to be able to do that for the long run. I think why I get so passionate about this topic is not just for the quick 10-pound weight loss or the quick fix. It's really to bring an aspect of physical wellness so that we can excel in our mental wellness, our spiritual wellness, and ultimately do the things that you and I have been called to do uniquely and individually, to do that thing, not just for 5 years or 10 years, but do this, like, persevere and endure in our unique callings. And if we're not well, not going to fulfill our full potential.
I feel like there's a lot of people out there, not just our viewers, but everywhere, that are feeling that burnout like I was before I started doing the program of, like you said, would I be able to sustain for the next 30 years? No, never.
Wow.
I would be in terrible health. I'm thankful that and can change the course of where my life is going.
Yeah. Who you are in Christ, freedom in being able to fully step into who you're created to be. That's the tagline of the book. Although I wrote that in a book, and I understand that's my secret sauce in working with women as it relates to their health, my challenge has been staying in my lane. And I think we can all sort of relate to this. Sometimes we start going in a certain path, but then we're seeing someone else do something sort of similar, but it looks shiny and it looks fun and like, oh, they're doing it better. And so you want to switch over and start running in their lane. And so for me in this context, it looks like being on Instagram and on social media and seeing all of these health and wellness influencers in the bikinis and the sports bras and the like hard workouts. And part of me is like, oh, I want to be that woman because I love working out. Like, it's kind of my world. But my challenge, and I believe my invitation, is to stay in my lane, which means that I've been called to work with women and help them identify root issues and bring them the practicals along with that to reach their health goals. But it's in a different way, it's in a different mode. It's actually inverted to the way the world does it, or the way most influencers do it. And so on a daily basis, I'm challenged to stay in alignment and to stay authentic to who I am and the unique message I carry that frankly is just different. And I want to work with people like you who are hungry, not just to better their health and their physical appearance or their physical well-being, but to actually do it for a purpose. The bottom line is that sometimes a physical result or even a monetary result, it's not going to satisfy.
But your message is such a turn on to me. And I'm sure there's tons of other people out there. So I love that you're speaking in your lane for the people like me. All right, Brooke, so in closing, I've been listening to some of your podcasts, and I love that at the end you mentioned, here's one thing I want you to try and work on this week. So if there's one thing you could tell all of our viewers that they could work on this week, what would that one thing be to start?
Just eat salads for the next 7 days.
I was like, she's gotta be joking.
Yeah, I heard snaggle over there. I was like, salads.
Remember we talked about knowledge and the protocol? Everyone wants a quick plan.
Yeah.
So if I were a viewer watching and I wanted to make a change and I was serious about it, this is where I'd probably start. Instead of thinking about, okay, what am I gonna do? I want you to totally flip the script and I want you to take our advice, like our first pillar, and rest. So I would challenge anyone watching to take the next week and get 8 hours of sleep. But here's what I want you to do in this next 7 days of resting, okay? Is I want you to think on these 3 questions. So the first question is this: what season am I in? Okay? So if you're taking notes or you want to jot this on your phone, like just write season in all caps. And then the question to ask yourself to figure out what season you're in: what is my most important role in this season? And for some people, it might be raising young kids. For some people, it might be moving into a new house, starting a new career. You have to figure that out for yourself. But the second question you're gonna ask yourself is margin, okay? Again, if you're taking notes, all caps, margin. This is the question to ask yourself with margin, is how much time and money do I have in this season of my life, not last season, not in next season, this season of my life, to pursue my health and wellness goals? That's just real. Like sometimes you might have 20 minutes a day because you have young kids to put towards your health and wellness goals. So maybe you decide in that 20 minutes a day, I'm going to walk my dog for 10 minutes and I'm gonna make sure that I get a healthy breakfast in. That's okay. And of course, the other component of that is financial, right? What is my financial margin? Some of us might be able to hire a personal trainer. That can help. But if the situation is flopped and maybe there's not a lot of extra financial margin, that's totally fine. We just have to figure out, okay, how are we gonna grocery budget to get the foods that are real and whole and nourishing, right? So the third and final question to ask ourselves is mentors. The last all caps is gonna be mentors, okay? So ask yourself this question: who in my life, or do I have access to, that has gotten the results that I'm after and aligns with my core values? Really important to have both. We're always growing and we don't have all the answers. And so having a mentor that has gotten to where we want to go can be extremely helpful to avoid a lot of the roadblocks in the journey. Also, do they align with my core values? Like we talked about Pinterest or Instagram, right? There's a lot of women that might have the physical results I would love, but they don't align with my core values. So if I follow them and their protocols and their line of thinking, I might get the result, but I'm gonna be like feeling this tension the whole time because I'm bumping up against something that's just not in alignment with me. And so I think that's like a little bonus and a little secret of really finding mentors, again, not just in our health and wellness, but any area of our life that have the results and align with our core values, I think is really important. So I am so confident that if you gave yourself a week to get 8 hours of sleep a night and consider during your rest and rejuvenation time your season of life, what's your most important role, your margin, what financial and time margin do you have to accomplish these physical goals, and what mentors are going to be able to show you the way in a way that aligns with you, you are going to be amazed at how much success you're gonna have when you start to implement the plan. The Food Freedom book is such a great resource to actually walk through some of these practicals that you can have along on your journey.
I just want to thank you so much for partnering with us and coming on our little channel with us and sharing your message, because it's been a huge impact on me, and I'm hoping that our viewers will purchase your book and get their lives changed and going in the right 30-year direction.
Yes, it's such an honor, and so thank you for inviting me into your story of the Renegade Life. And I love how you guys are doing it. I love the spirit behind your videos, and your message is this renegade life. It's like different. I'm telling you, like you were saying, the rat race is so overrated. And I think people are starting to wake up to that. Like, people want something different, and you guys are providing a different way for people to not only see, but also see modeled and walked out. So I really appreciate you guys for what you're doing. I love what you're doing. I love the excellence behind it. And so all you renegaders, you should probably stick with them for the long haul too.
This is Brooke's book, Food Freedom. And can you tell us where people can buy this?
Yes, my website is wellwomenco.com. You can order the book there.
And just so it's not intimidating, it's not a very long book. Like, it's a quick read, and so it's not overwhelming. Can you tell us, Brooke, where can people find you?
Yes, pretty simple. Well Women Co. on all platforms. I love to hang out on Instagram the most. So if you're an Instagrammer, I'd love to have a conversation with you over there. It's Well Women Co. I'm on Facebook. Our website is wellwomenco.com. If you're a podcaster, I highly recommend, like Leah was talking about earlier, Well Women Co. podcast. Again, wherever you listen or download podcasts, we are there, and that's another great place for free content. We update that regularly on the monthly, and so that's a great place for your listeners to go and learn more. Be encouraged.
All right, we hope you guys check it out, and we'll see you next week. Can you tell us why?
Yes.
Why you picked a donut for the front?
Yeah. Okay, this is total insider information, but because I love these guys, we're just gonna tell this story. So when I was thinking about, okay, what am I gonna put on the cover of the book? Because let's be real, people judge a book by its cover.
Totally.
I do.
Yeah.
In the bookstore, like, if you are not pretty, I don't want to read you as much. And I know that's bad, and that's like counter everything we've been talking about today. So I'm like, what can I put on the cover that someone would look at and want to pick up? And I'm thinking, okay, I'm writing a book about health and wellness, so I should like put a salad on there, really. Like, there should be some veggies, but there's not. There's a donut. And this is a real live donut, by the way. We literally did this photo shoot and we ate these donuts, okay? But I was thinking about, if I saw a salad, if I'm a young mom and I'm struggling with my health and I see a salad on the cover of a book, I know I should eat more salads. I know I should probably, stop eating so many donuts.
That's exactly what I would have thought.
Right?
I'd be like, nope, that's not me.
Yeah, like, that is just lame, and I've heard that message before. But I thought, if I put a juicy sprinkled donut on the cover of my book, like, you can't even help yourself. Like, start to salivate and be like, I don't even care what is on the inside of that book. Like, I need to just check it out.